After maxing in the most difficult game mode Old School has to offer, I set out to achieve the best gear and push my account to the absolute limits. This is my endgame Ultimate Iron Man. In the previous episode, we returned to the Theater of Blood and received many purples, as well as a new pet. And finally, we received the big ticket item, the thing we were hunting, the Scythe of Vitur. And that brings us up to now. Hey everyone, Chad's here again with another video. Alright, so now that we are done with the Theater of Blood, we have all this loot we need to use up, and right now I'm going to be doing some smithing. I'm going to be changing this rune ore into rune legs that I can alch them for money. Unfortunately, this scythe, although it's very nice, is very expensive to maintain. The good news is I've got a lot of blood runes and vials to last for a while. But yeah, I'm going to be sitting here at the blast furnace until all of these runite ores are gone. Okay, and next on the list we are collecting red spider eggs to free up the snapdragons that have been sitting in my bag for a while. The basic premise of this method is combining red spider eggs with sardines, and then we will be rewarded with red spider eggs in noted form. For a more in-depth explanation, make sure to check out the Herblore Secondaries video on my channel. But for us, we will be sitting here for a few hours as we've got a lot of red spider eggs to collect for all of our snapdragons. Okay, we finished collecting the red spider eggs, so I decided to die to Hespori to reorganize everything. I tried to roughly get around 10% less spider eggs than the snapdragons that I had, so that we can rely on our prescription goggles to save us some secondaries. So I want to get into the premise of what I'm doing. Obviously, in the previous video we got the scythe. Well, this luckily came a few weeks before the new Varlamore Part 3 update is going to release. More importantly, with the update, is the new Delve boss that will drop some new best-in-slot gear. I don't know what kind of gear or items will be required for the new boss fight, so I'm trying to free up as much space as I can. I also want to see if I can get lucky at Cerberus with one of the boot upgrades before Varlamore Part 3 actually releases. Alright, and this is our first task back at Cerberus since about 2 years ago. Previously, the only crystal I needed was the Primordial, since there wasn't much of a reason to hang on to the Eternal or the Pegasian boots. So we're going to try and get the other two crystals now. I did actually receive a Pegasian crystal way back then, but obviously I did not keep it. And I already have the pre-upgrade boots stored. The Ranger boots, which are storable in the costume room, and the Infinity boots, which are stored simply by not purchasing them. I have the points ready from the Mage Training Arena to buy them whenever the Eternal Crystal arrives. So let's see if we can get lucky and snag a few crystals ahead of time. Something new since the last time I did Cerberus is the Ward of Arceus spell on the Arceus spellbook. Previously, this spell only reduced the damage from demons, but now has an added bonus effect that works perfectly at Cerberus. The prayer draining special attack from Cerberus is now also reduced by 33%. So instead of losing up to 90 prayer points each special, I can only lose a maximum of 60. Now I can spend less time making prayer potions and more time going dry at this boss. Oh yeah, and since we're already on the Arceus spellbook, at the beginning of each kill, I will be starting by casting the Ward of Arceus, casting Death Charge, and summoning a Thrall. This much special attack regen allows me to start each kill with a Dragon Claw special attack as well. Clue scroll. And that's a casket. And this is some garbage. Okay, this is a unintended jump, but I was doing some Cerberus on mobile and got a third Primordial Crystal. I wish it were one of the others, but I definitely can't complain about the Bond Bunny. Back at the desktop, here is the collection log update. 3 Prims, Smoldering Stone is my axe, still need the pegs because those got dropped, and the Eternals are needed as well. And my main does not have membership right now, so I asked one of my friends if he wanted it, and he will be getting the Primordial Crystal. One of the best money makers in game is just being friends with an Ultimate Iron Man. Coming in at 631 KC, that is the Jar of Souls. Second jar ever on the account. Not exactly the Pegasian or the Eternal Crystal, but still a new collection log, so that's pretty cool. Okay, and that is the end of the trip, so we're going to go back and visit our house. And I want to get this new jar in here. I think you can just use it on the display and swap them out. Sick. Okay, I think I like this Cerberus one a little more than the Sire one. Maybe it's just because it's new, but yeah, I'm going to keep this one out for a little bit. And some more garbage. Another pro tip that I like to use is I use the Falador Shield. Luckily, I have the Falador Shield 4, so that is equivalent of about 6 doses of prayer. Yeah, I like to use this once a day. It's cheap to get and will help save some prayer potions in the long run. Okay, just checking in at 700 KC. Still nothing new since the jar. Casket. Garbage. Oh, I guess we got a master. Oh, yeah, I'm not doing that step. See ya. Okay, and that is 800 KC, still nothing. And unfortunately, that was how the rest of these kills went. I finished out the day having left Cerberus without any of the crystals that I wanted. That was about 2 tasks worth of kills, which equaled around 350 kills. This was going to be the stopping point for me because the following day is when Varlamore Part 3 finally releases, so our efforts from here on out will be directed towards the new boss. We couldn't get lucky, but at least the kills here were pretty fast due to the scythe. When I previously did this, my best weapon for this was the Osmumten's Fang, and these kill times were much faster. Alright, so today is the day that Varlamore Part 3 finally is released, and we're going to start by completing all the quests. This one is the Shadows of Custodia, which takes place in Auburnvale. Auburnvale is home to the new fletching minigame. I don't know if I will be partaking in that though, mainly because I don't need any more fletching XP, but let's go ahead with this quest. So these are the new Slayer creatures, the Custodian Stalkers. You can apparently get the Antler Guard from them, which is like a Pure's version of a Defender. And you can also get these Alchemist Signets, which will give you Aldarium, which is kind of nice because previously the only way to obtain Aldarium was through mastering Mixology. Okay, and that is quest completion. That didn't take too long, about half an hour, and we got a little bit of XP with it as well. Okay, and now we should just have one quest left, the Final Dawn. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, doing quests with combat on day 1 kind of makes me a little bit nervous as an ultimate. Because for some reason I feel like there's going to be some sort of bug if I die. I won't be able to get my items back, and Jax is just going to say, "Oopsie doopsie." But I think that's just me being a little paranoid. I kind of enjoy these demi-boss fights that they've included during this quest, but it's kind of a shame that they put all this time into these bosses and can't really fight them after the quest. It's just like a one-and-done thing. Kind of wish that maybe there was something like the Mokhaiotl afterwards that you could go do, but oh well. Okay, I think this guy is the final boss fight, and it looks like we get a little bit of help during it. I think this might be the first boss, or potentially first NPC ever, that actually inflicts burn damage onto you. And that's another boss fight down. Like I said before, kind of a shame that these are kind of just one-time boss fights. They put some really interesting and cool mechanics in here. Yeah, I wish this was like a repeatable boss, but whatever, that is the boss fight completed. This whole dungeon is kind of neat. It's comprised of a bunch of puzzles, and it requires you to command this other guy where to go so that you can complete those puzzles. I think that's a first-time mechanic for this game. Alright, apparently for this next portion of the quest, there's a boss fight, and it looks like you need a ranged weapon. I'm not going to plan on rebagging, so I'm just going to grab the Bofa from the stash. And my favorite part of the quest is when I spacebar and have absolutely no clue what's happening. And that's another boss fight completed. Shares similar mechanics with the previous ones, but yeah, I think that is the final guy. Okay, and after some more space sparring, that is the quest finally completed. Hella combat XP. But yeah, that's going to give us access to the new Delve boss, the Doom of Mokhaiotl. And even though I'm 99, I'm always down for some free prayer XP. Oh yeah, and with completion of the quest, you also get this little Arcan Blade. It's kind of similar stats to a Dragon Scimitar, but which also has a special attack that will apply burn damage to your enemy. One more thing, I've been hanging out to this Grazi Rapier for a while. I really think it's a cool weapon, and it's great for regular mob slayer tasks, but the problem is that I'm done with that kind of slayer. Most of my tasks from now on will be boss tasks, and the Rapier is simply outclassed at too many locations by other stab weapon, Osmumten's Fang. Furthermore, I was hanging on to the Rapier through this update to see if it would be useful at all at the new Delve boss, and from what I'm seeing, it's not weak to stab. So for all those reasons, we are going to have to be saying goodbye to the Grazi Rapier. Thank you, soldier. You served us well. 2.5 mil, not bad. And much like the Rapier, I was also hanging on to the dual maracas. I don't think I'm going to be needing this anymore. It does have a nice double hit function, but you know what's even better? A triple hit function with the scythe. So for that reason, I will also be saying goodbye to the dual maracas. If If you're enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscription. I'm trying to reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Thank you for supporting my channel. Alright, we rebagged, regeared, and we are ready to go. It looks like the meta for this boss is to use ranged. Luckily, Twisted Bow seems to be pretty good here. Also, since it's demonic, we're going to need our Emberlight, as well as the Demon Bane spells from the RCS spellbook. We're going to use the Kodai wand for auto-casting. Also, since it's a Kodai, we have a 15% chance of saving some runes. Woo! So, this boss has a lot of stuff going on. There are these grubs that run towards the boss that constantly need to be dealt with. Otherwise, you'll take damage and the boss will heal. He's got this charge attack that will hit you for massive damage, and also for some reason heals him all the way. Wave 1's already kicking my ass, and at this point, I don't know how I'm going to continue further, just to obtain the new rewards. And even the first wave of this boss was very challenging for me. It took me nearly 2 minutes to complete for my first time. I had no idea what the mechanics were. At first, I thought the rocks played a more crucial role, but I didn't find out until much later that they were actually basically pointless for the first 5 waves. But attempt after attempt, we kept moving along and delving deeper and deeper. So, before we get too far into the new boss, I wanted to talk about why I'm doing this boss in the first place. The Doom of Mokhaiotl drops 3 new uniques, the Avernic Treads, the Eye of a Yak, and the Cloth of Mokhaiotl. The Avernic Treads, simply put, are the new best-in-slot boots for every combat style, range, melee, and magic. These are not only great because they are better than the previous best-in-slot boots, but also they free up space if I ever were to bring a boot swap. What's even better for UIMs is that previously, Primordial boots were really the only meta boots to keep. Some people may have kept Eternal boots, but you'd surely get laughed at for hanging on to occasions. Now, we can have the best in-slot boots for any combat style without the difficult choice of hoarding extra items. It's the best of both worlds. Next, we have the Eye of a Yak, which is a powered staff that basically fits the gap between Sangstaff and Shadow. It's unique because it is the first staff that attacks on a 3-tick cycle. This makes it great for low HP mobs, and even makes it a must-have for the Nyla room in the Theater of Blood. This weapon pairs nicely with the new best-in-slot magic gloves, the Confliction Gauntlets. The Confliction Gauntlets are crafted with the Mokhaiotl cloth. Not only do these new gauntlets have better stats than the previous Tormented Bracelet, but they also host a new passive effect. Let's say you are attacking with a powered staff or spell, and you hit a 0. Well, the passive of these gauntlets will make your next attack have 2 accuracy rolls instead of 1, effectively almost giving you a guarantee of the next attack being accurate. Ideally, I would like to get the boots and the cloth. I'm fine with my Sang right now, but if I receive an Eye of a Yak before the other 2, then I'll likely hang on to it. And the deeper we went, I realized that I needed a better method of getting back there. I was using the Hunter's Guild teleport and using the bird to get over there, but that was taking quite a bit, so I decided that I would go kill some Frost Nagwas to get the Pendant of Eights, because that's a much closer teleport. But yeah, we stacked up some hard clues, and I will now be opening them. Let's just jump right into it. And that's a new collection, Rune Shield H3. And a dupe enchanted hat. That's okay. We got a new collection log. That's still pretty cool. Unfortunately, still no Pendant of Eights, so we are going to go back to the Frost Nagwas and hopefully get one. Just kidding. We're going to do the Master.
Dude, you're swinging that around. That's, be careful with that. Spinny round thing, you know?
Okay, and here is the Master Casket for nothing, but it looks like we got the Minor Master Scroll case. So I think that lets you hold more stackable clues. That's kind of cool. So with those clues finally out of the way, we're going to grab our stuff off the floor from this death pile and get back to the Doom. And just like that, we get the Mokhaiotl cloth on a wave 2 of all things, when I still barely can even get through any of the waves of this boss. But anyway, I am super excited to knock that out early. It's always nice to get a little bit lucky. Okay, I took a little break and AFK'd. They've got these new infected roots around kind of the boss entrance area, but they give you demon tears, and it's super AFK, but apparently you need 10,000 demon tears to upgrade the Mokhaiotl cloth. Alright, I am done AFKing. I've got a little over the required amount of demon tears, and I death banked, so we're going to take out the Mokhaiotl cloth, as well as my Tormented Bracelet, and we are going to make the Confliction Gauntlets. Alright, let's use these two together. And yes, I would like to make the Confliction Gauntlets. And it's even got a unique animation that I will only ever see once on this account. There we go. Pretty neat little animation. Kind of reminds me of the Araxor Fang. But yeah, let's gear back up and get back in there. Got a little distracted on my way to the Warriors Guild buying potatoes. Are you fucking kidding me? Another cloth on wave 6? I mean... it could have been something else, but I'm still under drop rate, so I can't really complain that much. The thing that sucks about getting the cloth as a dupe is that it is untradeable, unlike the other two uniques. Had I duped the boots, for example, I would have been able to drop the extra pair to my main for hundreds of mils, but instead I get this thing. I could, hypothetically, go to Demonic Gorillas for another Zenite and craft that into another pair of Confliction Gauntlets, but I feel like that defeats the whole purpose of what I'm doing. That would take me too long just to get some extra cash for my main, and ultimately, takes me away from my goals here at Doom. So for now, this spare cloth is going to be out for a measly 120k. And as we kept going deeper and deeper, I finally completed my first 7 and decided it was time to try my first level 8. And honestly, I did a lot better than I thought I would, but those double boulders were definitely causing me some trouble. But that did not stop us for continuing on. One thing I'm really glad about at this boss is that the ZCB, which I've had for a while, is finally pretty useful here. I've been starting pretty much every kill with the ZCB spec, and if it lands, it's a guaranteed 110 damage that's already done for me. I've seen some other people use Ralos, and I'm glad they finally gave that thing a use. And another mechanic that he's got is the melee punish phase. I kind of mentioned it before, but if you don't attack him during that, he'll hit you for a very high number and also heal. It just so happens that Scythe is the best in slot item that you can use there, aside from like a Crystal Halberd spec, but yeah, the Scythe's nice, it's got the multi-hit effect, and I'm glad we have it. And another tip I wanted to put out there was I found it a lot more useful if during his blue shield phase, if I actually marked him the color blue, because I kind of found it difficult to differentiate between that and the melee punish that I talked about before. And one more tip that I have is in RuneLite, you can download the Demonic Larva Tracker from the plugin hub, and it will make it so that all of the larvae that run towards the boss will be color-coded, and it kind of makes it a little bit easier to differentiate between which one it is. And during this phase, it's recommended that you use the respective Demon Bane attacks on each of the different grubs. This is because you will one-hit them and you won't have an attack delay. Unfortunately, I do not have the Scorching Bow, which would complete the trifecta and make dealing with the grubs a lot easier. I don't think it's worth my time investment to grind another Tormented Synapse when I could have just spent that time doing more Doom. The Blowpipe isn't the best option for the ranged grubs, but it's the best option that I have. If I didn't already own a Twisted Bow, I would consider going for the Scorching Bow, but right now, it doesn't make much sense for me to go for one. So we kept trying wave 8s, and we kept failing. Had to take a little break to do some chambers, and congratulations to my friend Mr. Smelvin for the Ancestral Rub Top. Garbage. Garbage. Anyway, now we are headed back to the Doom. One interesting mechanic that this boss has is that after wave 5 he will go into race car mode, where he targets a spot behind you and quickly dashes towards you. If you don't move out of the way in time, then you'll take massive amounts of damage. But the boss also has a weakness during this phase. All attacks are 100% accurate. Personally, I usually just stick with my Twisted Bow, but a lot of other players will use the Dragon Throwing Knives, Blowpipe, or ZCV during this phase, since accuracy is not an issue. And so I carried on, and I kept trying and getting to wave 8 plenty of times. And just like in this clip here, there were so many kills where I was just barely hanging on. But not hanging on enough. I had to go through death, after death, after death, and attempt after attempt. This boss at Wave 8 seemed nearly impossible for me, and many times I wanted to just give up altogether. Until this happened. And finally, attempt after attempt and so many failures along the way, I finally got my first Wave 8 completion, and I was rewarded with this. Sometimes you don't always just get the drop. Even though at this point I was only on rate for about one unique, each spare cloth I received stung more than the previous. I wish it didn't have to go this way, but hey, at least we got 120k. Thank you guys so much for making it this far into the video. I wish that we could have ended the video on a little bit of a higher note, but sometimes that's just the way things go. I don't want to completely give up on my journey of delving deeper, but that is going to have to be all the progress for this episode. If you have any thoughts, feel free to express them in the comments down below. I make sure to read each and every one of them. But that's going to be all for today. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.